Kenya Barris, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Thank you so much. What up, Trev? Thanks for having me, dog.
How you doing, sir? This is dope. I love your Zoom background. It looks so real. It looks like you've got a really beautiful yard and everything. That's amazing, man.
I'm actually in a federal penitentiary. This is this is how we.
I want to talk a little bit about the little empire that you've created. I mean, that's a paradox. Little empire, the empire that you've created. Um, Really spinning off from from Blackish. You've got Blackish, you've got Grownish, you've got Mixed-ish, and then on Netflix you've got Black AF. How much I didn't know that there was this much in blackness that could be extracted from blackness. Like where do we go from this? Because I want to join in. I want a piece of the
We
action.
got one more, and we can do South African-ish too, but we do have one more coming.
You've really done a great job of, I think, creating experiences and creating shows that speak to the black experience in I think in a way that not everybody's familiar with. Like a lot of shows try and put black in one category. It's either going to be a sad story, it's either going to be a slave story, it's only going to be racism, or it's only going to be hip hop. But you, in all of your shows, try and tell it in all of its complexity. Like you go like, no, being black is all of these things. With Black AF, you've been picked up for a second season. Congratulations. What are you trying to do with the show moving forward?
I wanna be relevant. I want to be culturally progressive. I want to say things that haven't been, like it was people liked it, people hated it. You know what I'm saying? I think, but it was the most polarizing thing I've ever done, and I have to be honest with you, because of that, it was probably one of my favorite things.
Wow.
Because I didn't, in a way that I didn't realize before, the best way to really start a conversation is to have people disagree. And I think that so often as Black artists, we are not able to have conversations that are not just sort of down the middle. I love that because those kind of conversations were getting created, and that's how we move forward. So whatever we do next season, we want to move the conversation forward. We want to sort of, I remember when you started doing, the Daily Show, it was a big change, and it was like you did not try to do an impersonation. You came and did yourself, and you murdered it. But it was like that was a progressive move for the culture, and I feel like the way we have to move forward is to do bold, seismic changes to what people have seen us as. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Let's talk about the episode of Blackish that everybody is talking about right now. And that's the episode that was previously shelved under mysterious circumstances and then now has been released on Hulu. And I think it's entitled Please Baby Please. And there was this episode that we heard about, and it was supposed to come out, I think it was a year after the election had taken place. And then all of a sudden this episode disappeared, and people were like, what happened? Where did the episode go? And then Kenya Barris left and ABC and started working with Netflix, and people were like, did they censor him? Did they stop him? But now this episode is out, and I mean, it's a really poignant episode, covering everything that happened in that first year, talking about Donald Trump, talking about xenophobia in the country, the rise of right-wing nationalism, the rise of homophobia, just like everything that we were seeing explode in America during that first year of Trump's presidency.
Years ago.
Right. But it seems as relevant today. So two things. One, can you tell us why that episode was shelved? And two, why did you fight so hard? Why did you go to Disney and say, hey, I really think we need to release that episode?
I can say that there were creative differences in why it was shelved. You know what I'm saying? I think that it was a really interesting time in Disney's sort of, growth. And at the same time, it was an interesting time in our country's growth. And it was the most blatantly partisan episode of Blackish we'd ever done. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
In terms of like, and it was, that's a hard place to be, you know what I'm saying? For America's Broadcasting Corporation, you know what I'm saying? They already had let us do a lot of things. And I felt like some of the things that we could not agree upon in terms of what should be there, what shouldn't be there, it was not something that I felt like at that time I wanted to compromise on. And from the highest levels, Bob Iger, you know what I'm saying, understood and like really supported where I was coming from, but at the same time was running a publicly traded company during a merger and things like that. And it was, we came to a really, at the time, unfortunate, but really respectful understanding that I did not want to put it out with changing it,
Right.
and they didn't want to put it out without changing it, and we decided. And I think I actually spoke to Iger, who re-aired Hope and Juneteenth, during the time, and we were having a conversation. And Bob, my joke is that he's made in a CEO factory. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Bob Iger. I'm Bob Iger reading for the role of CEO. Like, he's the best CEO I've ever talked to. But like, we had a real honest conversation about this episode. And he was like, I love the episode. He was like, I think the time is there. And he's like, I think that there's a lot of curiosity as to actually why it was shelved. And instead of like us trying to answer it or us trying to talk about it, he was like, I think the time is like now to say, like, let's put it out and let people sort of on their own find their answer of what they can find for us. So I feel like that has been, what I've been really, happy with what people have been saying and what people have been seeing. And I feel like it is one of the highlights of like my writing career is to be able to have something that you felt like was gone, that you're really proud of, to be able to come back and actually during a time when we're actually in all this stuff, speak to people and start a conversation.
Well, Kenya Barris, thank you again for joining me on the show. Hopefully next time I'll see you in person, my friend. Enjoy your Zoom background, and good luck with season 2 of the show.
Thanks, Doc. I appreciate you. Thank you for this.
All right, my dude. I appreciate you, man.